He fights a monkey in space. What's the story, YouTube? This is Heritage, and this is my Astra review. To the Stars, featuring Brad Pitt. This is the latest Brad Pitt, James Gray film. I don't know much about James Gray. I haven't seen any other films that he's directed. If I have, I can't name them off the top of my head. But I will say that this is, it's a beautiful film. As per usual, I'm just going to give my non-spoiler section here at the moment. And then when the picture changes, be in the spoiler section. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous looking film. I have to be honest with you now. It's done in the same vein of Interstellar and Gravity. So it's set in the future, but it's not too technologically advanced. We're not talking Star Trek here. We're just talking about very pre-functional, industrial type space travel. So all the stuff you see in this, it's technically possible for us to do it ourselves, if you're willing to fork out the money for all the equipment and the materials and the stuff you need to actually get it built. It's essentially a mystery in the sense that this project called the Hmmm project has reared its head after being absent for about 15 years or so, something like that. And Brad Pitt, that is the guy who's in charge of that. So this is one of the reasons why he's picked to go on this mission. I won't get into spoilers at this stage, as I said, but it really, on the surface, it seems to be just like that. Find out what happened, get out there, make contact with the dad, try and bring him back home. That's what it is. But on another level, as a metaphor, what it's really about is grieving. It's about death and the loss and coming to terms with losing someone you love. And that's really the level that this film is actually working on underneath. And I gotta say, I found it immensely enjoyable. Now, it is a slow film. And I mean that in the sense that like Gravity, like Interstellar, like it had good action moments, don't get me wrong. And it starts off with a bang with the results of the surge, which is the antimatter explosion that happened out by Neptune. It actually translates all the way back to Earth and causes this massive electromagnetic disturbance that results in like thousands of people being killed. But the first set piece we see is when Brad Pitt, who works on a space antenna, which is basically up in the upper atmosphere, but extends all the way down to Earth. It's not actually in orbit. So he's on that, it gets hit by the electromagnetic wave, everything starts going to hell, and he ends up, having to parachute back to Earth. But don't kid yourself, that's not the level of action we see in this film all the time. It's much slower, and as a result of that, it has great tension. So when things do happen, it really has more effect on you. And it's got a great emotional resonance to the film as well. As I said, it's really about, on the surface, it's about trying to find the dad. Underneath, it's really about letting him go. So that's what it's really all about there. So I really enjoyed it. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. One of the most enjoyable films of the year for me so far. Completely out of the blue too. I heard nothing about this film up till recently. I think the last 2 weeks I've seen ads for it. And which surprised me because this is right up my street. But I'd have to admit now, it's 2 hours, not too long. As I said, I don't think I was ever bored at any point. Pitt's performance is it's interesting. Like, he's playing a guy who's emotionally detached. Like, he's credited in the film with being like, I don't think his heart rate goes over 80 or something like that. That's what he's kind of legendarily known for. He's always the calm guy. But that delves more into his relationship with his dad and how he needs to control his emotions more than anything else. And they kind of, as the film progresses, he becomes more and more emotional, as it goes. But yeah, at the cinematography, fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. I don't know much about this James Gray guy, but maybe I'm getting the name wrong as well, actually, sorry. But if I'm not, it's absolutely shot beautifully. The space scenes are just majestic, and you can just actually sit there and enjoy the view. It kind of reminds me of a spaceborne version of a film Chris Pine did a couple of years ago, where he basically paid him and his brother were going around robbing banks across middle America, and it was a slow enough movie itself, but it actually showed you the wasteland of middle America and how the economic devastation had hit it. And this is before Trump came along, so it actually encapsulated that helplessness that a lot of people in middle America had, so this is a lot like that in the sense that it's just beautiful to look at in certain areas. And it is fun to see, their vision of the near future, like the moon base, for instance, is it's done by Virgin Galactic. I think that's who they got in for that. And it's just basically, it's got a casino and everything, and it's apparently there's a war going on in it. So it's class. It just looks really good. I have to admit, like, it's great to see the designs for the spaceships, and how it's just, as I said, structurally stuff we should be able to do. So when they say the near future, they're talking maybe 50 years ahead, not 100 or 200. So there you go. That's my non-spoiler review for Ad Astra. Really enjoyable. If you like the interstellar type of film, if you like the gravity type of film, this will be right up your street. It's, as I said, beautiful to look at. Never seemed to drag. It's just short enough to be punchy, to get in, get the job done and get out. And Brad Pitt's performance is really good. So I give it a solid 8 out of 10. There you go. It's going to be spoilers from now on after this. So spoilers. If you like what you heard here, like and subscribe, share if you want, and thanks for listening. Okay, this is the spoiler section now. As I was saying, the film is more a metaphor for grieving and loss and letting go of the death of a loved one. Because Brad Pitt's character, when we meet him, he's having relationship difficulty with Liv Tyler, who has walked out on him because he's emotionally distant from her. And a lot of this is due to the relationship he had with his dad when he was younger, because they've got a temper. Yeah, like you've got an anger, and it's not explicitly said that Tommy Lee Jones' character, his dad, smacked him around the place or anything like that. But I think it was more to do with the fact that because they have this rage and because they have this anger, he made himself emotionally distant, which makes him really good for the job, you know, where you do have to be in control. And they're continually doing psych evaluation tests to see if they're up to do the job. And he, as I said, is legendarily known for not getting over 80 beats per minute in anything, including the opening sequence where he's fallen from practically near Earth orbit, you know, like, and he's been, you know, and he's fallen down. His chute gets hit by shrapnel from the destruction. And you do see a lot of people get killed in that section. As I said, it's really punchy way to start this film. But like I said, don't go into this thinking that it's going to be like that all along. It's not. It's a nice, slow film with some beautiful cinematography, a slowly building story that, like I said, has a great emotional heart to it, but with this, you know, interspersed with moments of, you know, really good action. So like I said, this surge that it hit the space antenna that caused the first set piece is a result of an antimatter explosion that's happened out by Neptune, which ties into a secret project called the Lemur Project, in which Tommy Lee Jones' character was attempting to contact alien life or alien intelligences. And they were using antimatter for some. It's never really explained exactly how they intended to do this, and, you know, because it looks to be more like a glorified telescope than anything else, but then in communications. But because of the surge, it's actually affected whole swathes of the planet. You know, I said 43,000 people, I think, were killed at one stage. That comes up on the screen. So he gets contacted by the military, like the Space Command, to send him to Mars, because that's the last outpost that we've managed to get to, because we haven't really expanded beyond there. And they want to actually send him out there to send a message to his dad, because they think he's actually still alive and that he's been doing experiments with the antimatter, and that's what's caused this explosion. And apparently this could cause an uncontrolled chain reaction, which will destroy the entire solar system. So it's quite a big deal for him. Now, in fairness, like I said, Brad Pitt's character is always stays calm, takes this on board, doesn't miss a heartbeat on this, you know, like, but this is how he ends up accepting the mission and being sent to the moon. And this is actually a lovely bit, because you actually see it's a single stage rocket pretty much that goes up there. You're so used to seeing the Saturn V types where bits all fall off. This thing just goes straight there, except for the command capsule on the top, which just pops off and lands on the moon. And as I said earlier in the non-spoiler section, the moon is now being colonized by various competing world powers. So there's a kind of a civil war, some sort of war going on the surface of the moon for resources, presumably helium-3 or something like that. I didn't quite catch why they were doing it, but it's definitely territorial. So he's going to be going through an area in order to get launched, you know, from a military site to Mars. So when he's driving from the moon base to the military facility, they become under attack by pirates who are driving their own moon buggies. And the moon buggies, like I said, they're not especially technologically advanced. They just look like the same stuff that Neil Armstrong and co were driving around back in the day in the 60s. And it's actually a great sequence. Like I said, you see them starting firing at each other, and you see the slow motion explosions when the moon the moon train gets hit. It just kind of sprays up. And it's really, you know, like I said, because the film takes so much time building up tension, when something like this happens, it really has an actual effect. So the scene where Brad Pitt's moon buggy gets hit by an explosion and spins off towards, you know, into a crater, it has a lot more weight to it, because you know, like, because things have been so slow up to this moment. So it really has a more of a fake moment when you see it spin off into that huge crater, to be honest with you. You swear he's going to be fecked up. But like I said, the moon has a sixth of the gravity of Earth, so it does land pretty well intact, and he manages to get out the other side. And I believe at that stage, the military actually take out the pirates with some form of mortars, which actually looks gorgeous because it's on the dark side of the moon at this stage and just lights it up the sky in a kind of a splash of kind of liquid metal or something. So it's really, really exciting. It's at this stage we find out more about the project, and that, like I said, the character played by Donald Sutherland gives him a kind of a data slug that he looks at later on to see the last communications from his father. But before we get to that part, this is where we end up in the transit between the moon to Mars. And midway between there, they end up having to go on a rescue for, I think it was called the Vesta 4, or Vesta 5 maybe. It's a spaceship, space station that's actually engaged in medical and animal research. And this is where we actually end up running into the monkey. I gotta be honest with you, that whole scene was fantastic. If I was cynical, you'd actually say that it was actually just slotted in there to create more drama and more, excitement, because the film could have got really too slow at this stage, because they are being very faithful to kind of like actual real world physics and dynamics, because it's taken a long time to get to Mars. It's getting a long time to get to Neptune, so this could be really slow. But yeah, it was great. He goes on board. The guy he's with, the captain, ends up getting attacked. As really horrific kind of, you don't actually see the attack, more the consequences of it, but he ends up getting his nose chewed off and a lot of his fingers and that. And, Brad Pitt character tries to save him, but in the end, turns out there's two monkeys in there that come at them, two apes, and he ends up just evacuating the atmosphere on one side of the space station that they're on, and it just explodes, but I think he gets the captain back, and unfortunately he's dead, and they end up going back to Mars. But it's an exciting in sequence. It does actually really lift things up, and I do like the fact that they were diverted to do that out of a sense of duty, because they got a Mayday. They have to go no matter how secret his mission is, and he refused to tell them what they was actually going to Mars for. So as far as they knew, he was just a high VIP passenger, so they had to go and rescue him, but he ends up getting to Mars, and that's when he runs into Ruth Negga's character. And this is when we find out that it looks like his dad's gone a little bit doolally, because she's got another recording that her parents had managed to get back to her, in which it looks like there was some form of mutiny on the Lima project, and it looks like that Brad Pitt's father has basically killed everybody. We don't know why, but he's basically killed everybody because they wanted to go back to Earth after something they discovered. So Ruth Negga's character actually kind of has a bit of animosity for him, but not overboard. She doesn't, blame him for it, but she does outright state that your dad's responsible for my parents' death. But she is instrumental in getting him onto the ship to get out to Neptune, because at this stage he sent the message to them that was pre-written by the Earth Command. They didn't get a reply from that, so he ends up ad-libbing, just talking emotionally and from the heart, and they get a reply from that, but we don't get to hear what that reply is. All we know is that they get a little bit upset behind the control screen, and this is the part where emotionally Brad Pitt starts to break down, starts to come to terms that, for the longest time he thought his dad was dead. Now he knows he's not. Now he realises he was holding him regarded as a hero. Now it looks like he's actually been, he's responsible for killing people. And it starts to eat away with him. And at this stage, when he goes to go for the psych evaluation, he's failed the test. He can't go out there, so they're not going to let him in. So Ruth Negga's character gets him onto the ship. But the manner in which he does it actually basically ends up resulting in the entire crew getting killed except for him. So he's going out to Neptune by himself, to meet his dad. And like I said, this is where you start seeing the breakdown, where it starts working more as a metaphor for grief, and in understanding your relationship with your parents, and, and seeing them for what they are instead of what you think they are or what you remember them to be. So this is the extended part now where he just goes a trip out to Neptune and he runs into the dad. And the mission at this stage is actually to nuke the Lima project station, because they think he's too much of a threat to the solar system now, and that, like I said, he's gone completely mad scientist. So Brad Pitt gets there at this stage, and he does meet with his dad, and they do have a conversation. And we find out that the reason why he went a bit doolally was because apparently there's no other intelligent life in the universe. That's what they discovered, which I have to admit is quite an inversion from most science fiction films. Usually, people are, falling over themselves for aliens, and there's always some, kind of contact like moment, and all this sort of stuff. But it was actually unusual for them to turn around and say no, and that's why he went to Lally, because his dad was convinced there was millions and billions of intelligent life out there that would run into, but everything from they've seen their research concluded that there was nothing, that there was only us. And I have to be honest with you, that had a real kind of powerful effect on the film, because it then reinforced the emotional content of it, because you're talking about, if there is only us, it would actually be a galvanizing effect on humanity, in my opinion, that they'd actually be a better chance of us, ending war and coming together, because we're pretty much the only intelligent life out there, and it's pretty much up to us about whether intelligent life keeps going at all. But Brad Pitt's father didn't take it that way at all, even though that's kind of the way Brad Pitt seemed to have taken it, because he was connecting with the dad. He was trying to bring him home. But as they were outside the space station bringing him back, he just basically goes after him and says, just let me go, son. And that's what it was. And as I said, this is where it comes back to a metaphor about death. It's really about letting him go. Like his image of his father, his connection, his feelings, and he does. So he just drifts off into space. As I said, they've left the nuclear device on the station. He's going to destroy it. He ends up getting back to his own spaceship, coming back to Earth, and the film pretty much ends with him hooking back up with Liv Tyler's character again, and reaffirming the emotional bond that he really needed to be able to express in the first place. So I'll be honest with you, I wasn't expecting that sort of stuff from this film. Really enjoyed it. I can't say enough about the visuals. The visuals are absolutely gorgeous. It was shot beautifully. The colour palette, the cinematography, it was absolutely lovely. Not the best that I've ever seen, but enough to keep you saying. And it is definitely one of the ones you want to see in the big screen. So I'd want to say that to you. This is one I wouldn't say you have to, but I would really advise seeing this in the cinema, because you get the maximum effect for it. I think on the small screen, unless you got a really big flat screen television, I don't think you'll get the same effect from it. It doesn't really take away from it, but it is something that you should be aware of. So that's my Ad Astra review. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, didn't expect this film, didn't know anything about this film at all when it's only caught up to it about 2 weeks ago. Really enjoyed it. 8 out of 10. Very immensely enjoyable. If you like, I said, the Interstellar, the gravity type of film, this one will be right up your street. So there you go. That's my review for this film. If you like this, subscribe and share, and leave a comment below on what you think about it and what you think about the themes that were involved. Because I was really surprised in certain areas it went, particularly in terms of religion. It was an awful lot of prayers for people who died and basically been buried in space. And for films that tend to steer atheist in that kind of direction, this kind of harkens back to the kind of the spirit of the 1960s and the moonshot, where you had an awful lot of these guys that kind of went hippie, when they were off the planet and orbiting the moon and realizing, had their mind expanded basically by just the sense of perspective that they had from space travel. So there was an awful lot of that in that, and I wasn't really expecting it at all. It's not heavy-handed, but it was there. So there you go. Let us know what you think below, and take care.